Okay, so we're talking literally about the most important process on the planet and the most important profession. There is nothing more important than producing food. We're sort of headed down this path, and it's really come down to treating symptoms rather than getting back to root cause. Let's look at the symptom treating model, and we can look at it in medical science and we can look at it in agricultural science, because there's a really, really strong parallel. If we look at medical science, I mean, the largest killer on the planet remains heart disease, and a black caviar's nose length behind it is cancer about to take over. The third largest killer until about 6 months ago was stroke. The new third largest killer is prescription medicine. I mean, what kind of pathetic, bankrupt system is it that our medicine has become our third largest killer? And then we look at this agricultural model. It can't continue. Every year since we started this, what I call the chemical experiment in agriculture, we've put on more chemicals. And every year, without exception, more pest and disease pressure. So it's literally like the definition of unsustainable. You can't put on more and more with less and less response. And that's what we've been doing.
That whole thing called conventional agriculture nowadays has come out of basically from wartime experience, the leftover chemicals and things like that. A lot of conventional agriculture comes from almost a wartime footing, and we're going out to do battle with the pests and the diseases. Well, I think it's a disaster really, to be honest. Conventional agriculture and the direction it's going, to me it's not really agriculture, it's sort of an extractive industry.
The food chain system we have today, the supply chain, is fundamentally flawed. So you can't actually repair it. You can't change it, because its bedrock is based upon principles which don't work in tomorrow's world. They just won't work, because of they've got the wrong values at the consumer end in terms of what they're producing. It's not based upon the inherent value of the food, just on its looks.
And we've basically, in really 60, 70 years of fossil fuel generated agriculture, we've gone right away from our roots. And if we went back, 70 to 80, 90 years ago, nearly every household grew their own food.
So we have to change that model for so many reasons. And thankfully there's a little bit of an awakening underway, and just hope it can happen in time, that people are realising it's time for a change. Really you've got to recognise your own power, because it will be people driven. There is no other way that it can happen, but basically part of that story, as I mentioned, is putting a face to your food, understanding how that food was produced, understanding what you need to be eating. In that context, of course, is the story of not just someone else producing your food, but the importance of producing your own food. And the most important single wellness tool. There is nothing more important for your health than having your own vegetable garden and understanding what it means to have what I call the ultimate wellness tool, a healthy, well-balanced vegetable garden. There's nothing comes close to that. It's not just about the fact that you're not going to be using the chemicals, and you are going to be using some lime and some compost and some trace minerals to create this wonderful tasting food that really is going to be better than anything you've eaten. But it's also the fact that you can eat that food immediately after harvesting it. Understand, you take a snow pea, 24 hours in the shop, you lost 50% of the vitamin C, and the list goes on, and most times it's much more than 24 hours that the food sat there. Take corn as the fastest loser of nutrients. Corn loses 40% of its nutrition 20 minutes after it's picked, and that's what a vegetable garden gives you. You eat it directly as you need it. You pick it, there's no loss. You're eating champagne food that is going to be the best food for you and your family. There's nothing comes close.
Plants are nature's medicines, and our bodies are built and based on the physics of nature in the temperate zone in which we live. So when we eat the fruits and vegetables, the nuts, the seeds, the grains, in the season that they come forward, we receive the highest benefits of nutrition. And you can smell it, you can taste it, you can crunch it, and you know that it's real. I think the future of food production is going to be getting back to growing things ourselves, to embracing foods that we know who grew them. The future of food is going to come back to the people that are actually consuming it. That's the future.
I've always felt a sense of urgency for the future, and it really worries me about what our future food's going to be. You've all given your notes back, haven't you? Oh, you can't come then. You know, and that's probably what's driven me at school here is I know by doing little tiny, sowing little tiny seeds here with the kids that they actually take those seeds home to their parents and get their parents involved with gardens and starting to take on their own responsibility. Motivated me is actually giving kids a real sense that they can achieve something and make a difference, because we're really inundated with a lot of negatives about what the future's going to be like, and for a kid it's really, really scary. And by giving them really super positive hands-on solutions, like, you can start to ease that sense of insecurity with kids. And I'm always really careful with kids to say, you know, yes, it's okay to be scared, but don't be worried, because you can change things really, really quickly, and you can make really positive impacts just through doing subtle little things.
You've already got one. Starfruit. That one just and then could you get my one? Which one? So she's kind of like apple. Okay. Go under.
You know, I like kids to actually get their hands dirty and play in different environments. I mean, you know, by getting more and more hands-on, I think that's the biggest way of changing their opinions. So I mean, when kids come down here and you watch them, as soon as they step outside the classroom, and they don't, I sort of trick them, because they're actually doing a lot of learning, but they're not writing it down. They're listening, they're touching, they're feeling the whole time. If we have lots of microbes in our soil, and imagine we've got soil that's got lots and lots of beneficial microbes and fungi, and imagine if we've got a soil that has no microbes and no fungi, which would be the better soil? What do you reckon?
The one with the microbes.
Yeah. So do you reckon insects would want to come and eat those plants that have got a nice, strong, diverse microbes and bacteria and fungi in the soil? Do you reckon insects would want to come and eat those plants? No, they wouldn't, because those plants would be what? Would they be super strong? They'd be like bodybuilders, wouldn't they? Yeah. They'd probably... I know, if we had a mirror there, do you reckon they'd be posing in front of the mirror?
Yeah.
I think they would be. Yeah. So, guess where the best source of putting microbes into the soil is? Who's the... Have a look.
Worms.
Yeah.
Pretty much a plum.
You know, so they've got options that they can actually see that there's solutions, because the world is painted as a pretty scary place. So, you know, having options like this, I think, helps reduce that scariness of the future, because they can actually see that this could be a really positive super positive future by growing their own food. Yeah, that's what it is, I think, for me.
I think at the moment the way society is looking at our current issues is, well, first of all, there's a level of denial and lack of understanding, and I think that's perpetuated by interests which have a vested interest in keeping us in the dark about things, or resisting alternative ways of doing things. Again, it's that whole thing of big money or big commerce controlling. It's a realistic thing that there are very large, powerful, moneyed interests that are stopping us from actually dealing with the issues we're facing on the planet. And to me, I think it's really about awakening consciousness in people, which I think is so good about. I meet so many young people through here, and Sunspace, which I find fantastic, you know, who want to do things differently, can see a different way of doing things, and I think it's so important. I think this compost, I'll probably clear a bit more of these weeds. We can, if you'd like to come and have a look, I'll show you this soil structure. A bit hard to see, but you can see how there's that lovely crumbly structure happening there, and there's all the air holes, but they also transform the nitrogen. So when we take in nitrogen, it's basically in a dead form for us. We don't actually use it in our bodies, and that we take in from the air. But when you take the nitrogen into the soil, the organisms convert it into a living form. And I always get a real kick when I see this, you know. Instead of being some sort of homogeneous mass that can't breathe, you start getting opened up and you've got a breathing, living soil. Yeah, I had a tremendous enthusiasm for what they were doing, what they were wanting to do here, and it just seemed like such a great opportunity to, bring biodynamics to a wider group of people. And it has been a fantastic avenue. I found it so good that people wander over and just have a look at the garden, and most people get a kick out of it. And I've realised just working with people, whether they're the HelpX people who come through here, or people who come in on Friday morning and work with me in the garden. There's a tremendous therapeutic quality in gardening, and I've noticed that over time. And I find it really, really very good. I really enjoy that aspect of it. Just being able to give that to people, really.
Shambhala Farm are a big supporter of regenerative practices for growing food. A big part of that is that we're working with the land, we're working with the natural environment where our food is being grown, and we're approaching it as humans who aren't trying to control nature but to work with nature and use the principles of nature to help us be abundant in our food growth. So to be abundant in our food growth, we need to look after the soil, and one of the big focuses we have at Shambhala Farm is to have healthy living soil. And we do that by compost application, we use worm castings, and we use certain organic applications to help support our soil health that allows the biotics of the soil to really allow the plants to grow fully and healthily, so that we humans can benefit from the nourishment of that. And also allow the natural environment to be happy and healthy at the same time. Yeah, you know, it's really important for people to be engaged with their food, to know who's growing their food, know what conditions are going into it. The more information people have about how their food is grown, the more compassion and understanding they have for the food that comes to them. And also being open and willing to explore and experiment with different types of food that might be able to be grown more locally, but it's not quite what they're used to. What we're able to do here at Shambhala Farm is help to educate our community about how to use this sort of food so that they can integrate it into their diets, into their meals, and allowing that edge to be taken off around picture-perfect produce that must have a glossy shine to it, but accepting that nature has its various ways, and as humans we're adaptable with that, and we can utilise the resources that nature provides through the food that is grown. Shambhala has, you know, a great field of opportunity that it's walking into, and what helps that is to help people who really support it and care about the same things and put their money where their mouth is, put their heart where their mind is, and support local community enterprises to do this sort of thing, because there is a lot of competition out there from the industrial system, and yeah, or the more the merrier is a simple way of saying that.
The philosophy behind permaculture is natural systems. And why is that? Well, natural systems are only sustainable systems on the planet. They're only truly sustainable systems. So if we want to be sustainable, if the species of the Homo sapien wants to be sustainable on this planet, we have to study and understand and become natural systems ourselves. And so permaculture gives us lots of ideas and strategies of how we can do that. Well, we just have to change our behaviour and change our culture. Why not? We've chosen the culture we have. We just need to choose to change to a sustainable culture. If people understand what sustainable is, it takes a lot to understand what sustainable means. There's no fence. You're either dysfunctional on this planet or you're functional. You need to understand what I mean by that. You need to understand you're either good for the environment, which is good for the planet, which is good for the people, and good for all the other species, or you're bad for it. There's no fence. Every action has a reaction. You have to be responsible for every action you do. And so think about what you do and change. And dare to be the change. Dare to be the change. Dare to stand out and make the change. I do.
So this is my cow yard. So cows come in here at night, and I'm milking 2 cows at the moment out of our 3 dairy cows. And what I do is I harvest the manure from the cows, and then we put it into this methane gas biodigester here. So there's a whole system here, and that goes to the house and cook my breakfast with a gas flame. So what do I do with this waste stream? And then that ends up in my garden. We'll go to the garden. jackfruit. The jackfruit tree is the biggest production tree you can get on the planet, has the biggest fruit. Not right. Oh, down the bottom they are, yeah, okay. Gee, that's got flowers and ripe ones and green ones. I'll go to the big one. Gibboticabas. It's got flowers and fruit. I've got to get this fruit out of my mouth. Integrated systems of permaculture, eat as you go. So this, with this being like it is, I have very minimal bug issues. I also got this system for fertilising this system here because there's a complexity and diversity in there. There'll be organisms in there that helps this system here. In a monoculture, that doesn't work. Monoculture, a bug, we got a broccoli happening here, but if you had a row of broccoli, the bugs would come in and chew up the lot. But here, he's got to go around and find the broccoli, and he gets confused because we got smell, we got colour, we got height, all these diverse variants, and that just confuses the bugs, and they have a challenge to function in this area. Even in our food, we're looking for more diversity. The modern man now has a very diverse diet, but at the expense of utilising fossil fuels. So I'm trying to expand our diet with stuff that can grow with minimal inputs. And so what can I use? I'm in subtropical here, so yams grow quite well. Actually, this is going really, really well, even though we got down to probably 4 degrees, 5 degrees the other night, Celsius. So it's going really, really well. How's that for abundance? So I've been talking about the food forest with the diverse plants, diverse species. I've got my carbon plants, I've got my nitrogen plants, I've got the integrated systems of building soil, and you're asking, how do you do that? You know, I've given you the components, but how do I actually initiate it? Well, this is how I initiate it. These guys do the work. This is my food forest chook tractor. So this wonderful little implement here has come through that whole system over there over a couple of years. The chicken's preparing the soil, they're preparing this space, and very soon this will be picked up and put over into this grassy section here, and then they'll get a period of time to take out the grass, to activate and kill all the weed seeds. I don't mind weeds, I just don't want the grass. And then we'll plant a tree into that. So as soon as this moves, we'll plant a fruit tree and we'll plant all those support species, and that's how I create the food forest. So these guys do the work for me.
Where we need to head with food is yes, we need to actually grasp the concept of growing our own food as much as we can. Not everyone can do that, but the majority of us should. For people to actually start growing their own food, they need to have a shift in the understanding of true value of healthy food and what is healthy food. Today I got to eat the first strawberry of the season. When you get that first one for the season, it means a hell of a lot. And the flavour and the kick, you know, how many people get that? Not people get to experience that. I got to have the first strawberry of the season, and when people buy their punnel of strawberries in the supermarket, they don't know which strawberry of the season it is. They probably don't even care. They're probably just more worried about how long is it going to be before it goes rotten. I better eat it today, otherwise it'll be no good tomorrow. But I can have them go rotten in the garden and don't care because I've got more. And might be the second or 10th strawberry, it's still going to have the kick and the punch. It's my strawberry, and no one can take that away from me. That's my strawberry. And when you have that feeling and understanding it, when people get that, their first beans of the year, they're going to talk about that every time they go to the next barbecue or whatever. And once that starts spreading, people will grow their own food. That's what you need. That's what people need to understand that.